Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those of you who have just arrived. We're going to do our best today to keep our vibration high as we discuss something that is sucking the living life out of many of us. And so this is going to be a spiritually stretching morning. That's how I feel. It's going to stretch us a little bit. And I believe we're all ready for it. Many of you who are here today, or those of you who are listening to the replay who were so sad that you were not able to be here live for this, I've read your texts. We've communicated back and forth. Some of you have even called me because you couldn't even text the words. And this is the reason why we shifted the topic today. We shifted it to create a container for all of us to talk about what's going on. So let's do what we do best, and that's center with each other. So if you can come on camera, great. If you can't, just look at the women who are here. Look at the names of the women who are here. Think of the woman who popped into your mind this morning when you thought, gosh, I hope so and so is there, or I'd love for so and so to be here. Like, let's just hold the women in our hearts who are really feeling what's going on right now. Those women who may be silent but are texting us privately. Let's hold them in our hearts today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for bringing your presence into the circle. You know, each of us carries a thread. And that's one of the reasons why Red Threads Collective has the name it has, because I believe that we all have our own unique sacred thread that we bring to the tapestry that is the collective, that we bring to the tapestry that is our business, our community, our family. And that here together, that we truly are weaving and have woven something very strong and something very true. And right now, for so many out there, including many of us, the world feels unsteady. And we're starting to see truth being silenced. And truth, we're seeing the highest levels of leadership foreshadowing this truth being silenced. And it's on the record. And so we feel like we're taking crazy pills. Narratives are being rewritten, division keeps deepening. And while we all can see from our witness seat that this is the patriarchy burning, we still have mothers, daughters, sisters, lovers that are so untethered right now and feeling so scared that we holding our sacred center first and foremost, and remembering how and why we do that is so important. And so part of why we're gathering today is to do that so that we remember who we are and what we're here to create. And that in this circle, we practice confidentiality. This is our safe space. We can scream and shout and swear and do whatever we need to do. We're here to honor one another, honor our voices, say what we cannot say outside this space, but get it out of our bodies, and allow for the spaciousness that is what we're building together here. And we we practice the art of no interruption. We practice the art of not fixing every sister's woe. We hold space, we witness, we honor, we weave together. And when we ask for that help, we know that it's here. So that is that is the heart of this, right? So let's begin with a grounding breath together. Let's place one hand on our heart and one on our beautiful bellies. Close your eyes if you can and if you like. And let's breathe in slowly for a count of 4. Just hold for 2 and exhale fully for 6. And let's do that 3 times. So in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, in for 4, Hold for 2, exhale hard for 6. Get it out, get that out. And one more time. In for 4, 2, hold, 2, exhale, and exhale hard for 6. Get it out, sisters. The mantra that tickled me yesterday to share today is I return to the sacred center. My truth ripples outward with love. And that last sentence, my truth ripples outward with love, is one of the keys. That idea of when we return to our center and we open that up, we can see it, our heart center opening up and just sending out ripples of love. That is such a beautiful knowing. That's such a beautiful calling that so many of us share here. So repeat it throughout the day. Let me drop it in to the chat here so we all have it. This is it. Remembering to return to our center. Return to the center, sacred center. My truth ripples outward with love. So welcome to all of you who are here. Hello, Dr. Liz. Look at your sassy visor. I love it. So for those of you who just arrived, welcome. This past week, we know when we gathered last Thursday, we were right on the heels of an assassination of a public figure. I'm not inclined to speak names here. We all know what we're talking about. But we witnessed, I feel, we witnessed how fragile truth can be, how quickly it seemed that the life and legacy of someone was recast in front of our eyes, and how easily the voices that were calling out that truth were silenced, and that how it felt like overnight we created some of the deepest fractures we've experienced since 2016, and how we have had so many reflections in articles and in podcasts about how after 9/11, which was the anniversary last week, there was such a great coming together of us as a country, where we saw this moment that was so heartbreaking, that was so tragic, and we didn't care about the political affiliations of the people who were killed. We cared that our brothers and sisters were murdered. We came together. I remember you couldn't find a flag in a store. You could not find one. Everyone had them on their cars, but how this time, with the leadership we have this time, we've created more of a chasm between us. And we actually have advisors to our highest leadership calling for civil war right now. And what does that mean for us? And how are we carrying the potential fear that creates? Maybe not necessarily in us because we are in our center, but for so many people around us. It might be our partners, our children, our parents. And we here choose another way. And so I really want us to talk about what's happening in our hearts. I want us to talk about what uh, I've really embraced, this concept of consequence culture, but not consequences as punishment or exile. I mean, let me be very clear here that I'm talking about the sacred act of remembering that our words, that our actions, and even our silence creates ripples, and that every action, every word, every time we choose to be quiet matters. And that as leaders, as strong, sacred, spiritual, grounded, centered leaders, that in this time that we have such a sacred calling, and that exploring what it means to be a truth teller, to hold ourselves and others accountable and be compassionate in this world, not only for ourselves, but as an example, feels really hard right now. it feels like, what can I say? What can't I say? Where should I say this? How do I say it? What will happen to me if I say it? And I want to encourage us to, as much as possible, shift that fear into a fierce rising for us, to remember that silence is a consequence, and that, Joanne and I were talking about when we were in the green room earlier about how it, when you don't know what to say and you feel like, gosh, I just want to shut it all off, that is actually a calling back to the center of it. It's saying we need that, because if we feel that way, if sacred leaders feel that way, we we must speak. We must model a different way. And we must learn and accept that we're going to lose people. We are going to lose people. And that as we stand at this threshold, this place where these old patterns of division keep rising, that people trying to erase the truth or replace the truth and punish those who don't want to fall into line, can't carry us forward. That it won't last, but it feels so heavy right now. So I would love for us. I did send out the questions and some things for us to think about. Um, on Tuesday, yesterday, I posted about it. So I'd love to welcome whoever is feeling something right now. I'll give us a question, and if that triggers somebody into speaking, great, but you don't have to use this, okay? So the first question that I shared with everyone was, think of a moment when you spoke your truth with courage. And I want us to think about that and then talk about the ripples it created, whether it's a ripple in yourself, a ripple in the people you spoke it to, or if it went more viral and created a wider weave. You started a business because of it. You shifted your practice because of it. You quit your job because of it. You get the idea. So who's been clinging maybe to a moment when you spoke your truth with courage and it did what you wanted it to do? Michelle, go for it.
Well, I spoke truth with courage and it did not go the way I wanted it to.
Okay.
Um, I'm feeling very emotional right now. I'm sorry.
No, please, no need
Um,
to apologize.
I don't normally cry, so this is and so and that's not a flex. That's actually something that I struggle with. But so last year, my mom came to visit in Colorado for a week, and she has a drinking problem. And I spoke the truth to her. I told her, I am not going to, I set a big boundary. It's like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm not going to deal with your aggressive behavior, your unkind words, the drunkenness, and all this. So, and there is 20 years of this, and I put up with it and put up with it and put up with it, just because she's my mom and because whatever the things that society tells us, the narrative that society embeds in us. Um, so anyway, went 10 months, no contact with her. But as a result, it rippled out into my family. And now my family thinks that I don't want to have anything to do with them. Um, didn't get invited to a wedding. Um, Everybody else did. I mean, it's fine, but speaking the truth in that situation and being misunderstood, um, it's very hurtful, but it's
Mm,
also helped me to grow, you know?
mm,
Um, and what's true in my heart, other people saw it, but they were like, you have to, love your mom. You can't treat the family this way. And I'm not treating anybody anyway, but I think that that is indicative of our society. It's like we can't say what needs to be said without being exiled from certain, parts of our life. So,
Mm,
I don't know if that's really what you're talking about, but I understand.
I am. I mean, I honor the sharing. Uh, Family is tough. Family is tough. And I remember hearing the advice being shared with someone else in a situation like this that was like, our family is the grit in our lives a lot of times. And they know how to push the buttons and do the things because they were part of creating the buttons. And, I think when we speak from love and not from our ego and not from harm, that that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be received. And I think that is exactly what we're experiencing. It's just with our national siblings, not our blood siblings, that there is that same othering. Well, she said this, and without coming to the table with curiosity and asking you what happened, they're clearly listening to one side. They have, in this case, if I may, your mom is Fox News, and she's filling them with false narratives. And when our narratives are disrupted like that, especially the ones that we are, again, speaking from truth, from love, from our center, it can feel like, what did I do wrong? The reaction isn't what I was hoping for or expecting or whatever, fill in the blank, but that there is um, the anchor in this time is our intention. And now more than ever, we're trying to navigate the fact that, and I'm going to quote a pastor from when I was in my church days, that he used to say, we judge others on their actions, not their intentions, yet we judge ourselves on our intentions, not our actions. And I think we're in the middle of that right now because when truth ripples outward, it we see it like when we throw a truth pebble into the river, into a lake, it stirs the water, right? And some people run away from it. They don't want to know about it. They lash out at it. They just don't want to hear it because they know it's true. Your mom knows she's harmful. She knows that the booze is not good for her. And she misinterprets it. She takes it, in whatever way. We have to let them, as long as they're not hurting us, and you're hurting. So have you had a chance to talk with your other family members? Have they given you an opportunity to speak your truth? How are you feeling about that?
There's a lot of interrupting. There's a lot of uh, sharing their own story on top of mine and not listening. So there's a lot of making it about themselves instead of really trying to understand where I'm coming from.
Mm.
So I've tried. Yes, I've tried. I mean, my sister gets it because she's in the middle of it too, but she's not, she's conflict avoidant. And so she just
Ooh,
allows it,
yeah.
and I'm not, I've always been a disruptor. Um, I've always been an outlier. Um, but I finally got to the point where my voice is not going to be quashed anymore. And it does come with consequences. Um, but the thing that I've learned and really embraced is to really try to see everyone, whether I agree with them or not, as a divine being, you know,
Hmm.
um, on their own path, on their own journey. I'm not going to change my mom. It took me 10 months to figure that out. But I'm also not going to um, discard her because she's my mom, you
How
know?
do you do that? Let's talk about the realness of that, because I think that's a really big part of what's happening right now is that, and I see it on both sides of this sibling rivalry in our nation, right? That the difference is that the mom and dad are also complicit in the situation, right? They're calling one set of siblings evil, like names, calling them names. Let's just say that. Like people are calling each other names. So how do you, when someone's say calling you evil or selfish or whatever it might be, what are your practices to come back to your center that remind you to think, okay, they are a divine being having a human experience like I am. Breathe. How do you do that?
I made a list.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to hear your list.
That's funny you asked the question because as I was getting ready, this word popped up into my mind. Generosity doesn't mean like, material generosity, but generosity, giving people the benefit of the doubt. Um, we mirror back what we believe. I mean, so what am I mirroring back to them? What are they mirroring to me? Um, a lot of people are operating out of fear. You said something about a lot of people are texting you or saying that they're scared. Well, fear drives division, right?
Yeah.
Um, trying non-defensiveness. Like, is this about me or is it about them? It's not about me, right? Um, think about a lot of times we're in our mind instead of in our heart. There's a Bible verse that says, man cannot serve two masters, and a lot of people interpret that as serving uh, money, about money, but it's really not. Mind is a master, the heart is a master. So what am I serving right now?
Yeah.
Um, no, stop assuming what the motive is on the other side. I can make assumptions. Those assumptions are made based on my subconscious beliefs, my cultural background, my familial, the things I put into my brain. Um, and again, see the divine in everyone.
Mm. Mm. I love that. I particularly resonate with the idea of being curious, right?
Mhm.
I have a love affair with questions. I love asking. I mean, it can be something as simple as tell me more. Like that, those three words can crack open a conversation if somebody's willing to have a conversation, right? Somebody has to be willing to have a conversation. I really love that. I would love it if you're willing, if you would put your list on the group.
Sure.
It's beautiful. I think that we like right now, I feel like we all kind of need a spiritual tool belt because we all have things that we go to, right? We all have practices that we go to. And I feel like now is when we kind of need to refresh that. And whether we're refreshing that with Michelle's questions, right? How are we centering back? How are we coming from curiosity and generosity and what are the techniques that we're using to mirror back? Because again, when you were saying that, I was thinking, holy smokes, I feel like there are times, and I'll use the quote issue, right? So there's quotes about this person who was assassinated that are his own words that when spoken, we're told, stop saying those things. It's like, but the person you're grieving said those things. Like he said those things because he believed those things, or at least he was grifting on those things, right? And so that I think that there is that at some point, how do we release the need to control the outcome of what they actually believe? And right now, I think what feels so dangerous and the fear that's coming across in my conversations with women is like this isn't just a disagreement in a family. This is like disagreement with people who are carrying guns, who are hearing things like homeless people, we should kill homeless people. And within 24 hours, two homeless people are hanging from trees. Like there's consequence to the words that are being said. And so, looking around our room today, we all look like they want everyone to look. We're considered safe, right? Now we're a little long in the tooth for what most of them want women to be doing, but still, well, we can play some part in that. And so, like, we have such a responsibility to keep that torch lit and to not let that fear take over. Mm. I really appreciate you sharing what's going on with you, Michelle. I feel like it mirrors what's happening in the country. It really does. It really does. And that the art of uh, crucial conversations that where we don't agree, I feel like I used to love those conversations, and I feel like there there isn't an opportunity to do that anymore. And I want to get us back there. Connie, what are you seeing?
There we go.
There
Um,
we go.
my daughter, who is an incredible young woman. She's not young anymore. She's in her 50s, but um,
I'll take young
she
at 50.
there you go. But she went to a training with Invisible. They're the ones that started the No King's March,
Yes, yes, I
and
love that. Yeah.
she's holding bi-weekly meetings in her home to be able to discuss what we can do to be disobedient in many different ways.
Mm,
And
love that word.
we just had a meeting last Sunday, and I can tell you that just having sitting with those people in a room and being able to express our fears, to be able to come up with some little things that we can do that will make a difference, and who to shop with, who not to shop with, how we want to handle those conversations, because she's getting the training from the people that are doing this, that are creating the marches and all of that. And there was a gentleman, he's from Peru. He's he's on a visa, he's got his green card, but he went back home and he came back and he was being stopped at the border. And they're expressing the what he went through, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like some of the people being dragged off the street, but um there were probably about 15 people there, and every single one of us, there were like four men and the rest were all women, and all of us expressing how terrified we are. And there were two ladies there that were suffering from anxiety anyway, and then you take what's happening and they're paralyzed. And so I encourage you, if there is some kind of a group like that in your community, and like what Tracy is saying, she says, the man says, well, what can we do to grow this group? And she says, it's not about growing the group, it's about creating your own groups. And so I talked with her a little bit. We were driving back from California yesterday, so I was talking to her on the phone a little bit. And I said, so how do we do that? How do we form these groups, and then how do we go about inviting and making it so that it is a safe space? And she said, just reach out to Invisible, and they have the training, they have ongoing support. Like one of the ladies from the group that started Invisible here in Vegas was there to provide her support. So it really helped. I guess the bottom line is, what I'm saying is, I felt like I was able to have a voice. I felt like I was able to do something. And
Mm.
so I encourage you to go onto the Invisible website, find out if there is a group in your area. If not, maybe do the training and become a part. Like, there's the march that's coming up. What can we do to participate even if we don't feel like we can go and be in the march, there's other things we can do to participate, to be able to let our voices known. And here's a very interesting fact that they say if they have 3.5% of the population as a part of this group, then we can take down the fascism. We can take down the regime. And so, if you'd like some, I don't have any, I didn't get the information from her, but I can certainly get it from her. But I feel like that's what I'm going to do. And
Yes. Yes.
if
So
if
good.
there's anything that anybody else, I mean, if you want to chat, I can give you more information once I get the information. But yes, so it's scary. I mean, every single person is terrified. They're
Yeah.
terrified of what's happening. And we have
Yes.
to feel like there is something that we can do to just, even if it's a teeny little tiny thing that we can do to make a difference.
Amen. Connie, it's indivisible for those of you who are looking it up. I dropped the link in the chat, as well as the app that Connie mentioned that is fantastic. It's called Goods Unite Us. If that's not on your phone, please download it because it tells you where they put their money. And it makes it very easy, sometimes very hard to find where you can buy something. So I'm not going to tell you it makes things simple, but it's easy to choose where you put your money. And the local Indivisible group in Redmond was amazing. I have not plugged in here in Sonoma County yet, but I did a amazing march in Sebastopol. And for those of you who are in California or have heard of Sebastopol, you know it was raging. It was awesome. It was a bunch of aging hippies and all the generations after that. There was singing. People had bells on their toes, and it was. I was like, bring this back. Like I was like,
Yeah,
where
that
are they
that was
going? Let's follow them back to the commune, please.
yeah,
Like,
that was one of the things that the woman talked about who's helped put all these groups together and create the marches. And she said it's a time of joy. It's a
yes,
time to rejoice in that we do have a voice. There is something we can do.
yes,
And
so good.
yes, so
It's
I
so
highly
good.
encourage everybody.
Those are beautiful words of encouragement, and I will echo that every time I have either marched or been part of a any kind of rally. I leave so light and so hopeful. And it is that there is something about being in community, in real life, body to body, elbow to elbow, seeing people, wearing their beliefs on their shirts, on their sleeves, on their flags, and thinking, yes, I'm not alone in this, right? There are others. And that's why they don't want it to happen because they want the hope to die and be replaced with fear. And so I think that's so incredibly beautiful. Joanne, your hand is up patiently. Tell us what's on your
Oh, that's
mind, my
okay.
darling.
Indivisible is great. I go to the one here in Fresno, but also for the last 20 some odd years, I have been a member of the National Women's Political Caucus. And it's bipartisan, but basically it's electing pro-choice women into office. And so we raise money to support women who are running for office. And it's really rewarding. And they have NWPC. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and I'm not here next weekend, but Eleni Kounalakis, who is our lieutenant governor, is going to be our guest speaker next week, which is
Ooh,
really cool. And we've had like Christine Pelosi. We've had a lot of Betty Yee, a lot of people from the California elected officials. And so um, it's a good organization and it's a feel good organization to raise money and try to support women who are running. The other thing is, Connie was talking, you guys were talking about marching. I did the No Kings March, and now I'm a little bit nervous about the 18th of October because of everything that's
mm,
gone on.
yeah,
I'm nervous of the crazies out there that are going and shooting up places.
yeah,
I mean, we don't have a lot of the last couple of marches. There's been maybe two or three of the opposite side, driving back and forth and yelling. But now, after what we experienced last week, I'm a little concerned. What's the temperature of everybody else going out on the 18th and marching? I mean, I feel great after I do it. Again, I have my sign, I'm happy, and I love being there in that environment with all of the like-minded people. But right now, I'm having a lot of fear around that whole situation. So I need to get over that, I think.
Mm. Well, I think that's real. I mean, is anybody else experiencing that, or did anybody have that before the last rally, the last gathering? I mean, that's what they want. Obviously, they want us to feel fearful so that we don't go to the streets because, I mean, let's be real. We know that more than 3.5% of the population is against what's happening. We know that to be a fact. And so, like, every time I hear that statistic, Connie, I think, I wonder if that's based like pre-internet days, because I feel like we all see and have access to so much more information than we did, like even when we were all sitting around watching like the nightly news with Dan Rather in our, you know, Care Bear pajamas. Like, like it was a very different world then, right? And somebody else was tallying like that percentage. Like now, I feel like those numbers are so giant that and at least a lot of us realize that way more than 50% of the country does not like what's going on. And I think it is closer to 75, maybe even 80 at this point. It's a very small contingency, but they are violent. Walter
Yes,
Cronkite. Oh my gosh, yes.
I
I
think some
love
of
Walter
us are old
Cronkite.
enough to remember Walter Cronkite
Oh
and
my
Huntley
gosh,
and
for
Brinkley.
sure. Well, and Christine, me too. Christine dropped in the chat that for last night's announcement about Jimmy Kimmel triggered her, and I think that that's it, right, Christine? That there is this standard that one group of people is being held to, and the group that's holding them to that standard is actually using violent rhetoric, saying, "Go out and get them." Call, get them fired from their jobs, unalive them. Like, but their consequence is, oh, you have to apologize. And so there is this, like, do we even think about that? And I'm really serious. Like, do we even try to even solve that, ladies? Because that we cannot control what they're doing. We can't control it. And I feel like there is, yes, it's fueling both sides. Jimmy Kimmel, for example, is fueling both sides. Another round of people will leave ABC in the dust. They'll cancel their Paramount, all of the things. And the other side, the liberal side, is saying, all right, well, we clearly have to rise up. And at some point we're all kind of holding this hope that some point they're going to realize that it isn't us, it's not their neighbor, it's the billionaires. Who just put that on there? Oh wait, Christine, yeah, exactly. The problem is with the CEOs and the billionaires. They're the ones that are creating the dissent and the division. So what we do, how we hold again to that sacred center, how every morning we have practices that remind us that what is happening out there is false. It's false. We have to rebuke it and bring that different energy to the table. And I think what we're trying to get to is, what does accountability look like and feel like when we're seeing one side literally get away with murder, whether they're doing it themselves or to one another, yet the other group is being held accountable to it, and we know that the other side is not, right? And so how do we hold that accountability and show the world how to do that with compassion and love rather than fear and judgment and punishment and all of those things? And how do we remember that they're humans too, right? How do we not let ourselves think of them as evil? And I feel like there's a lot of internal dialogue that we have to be control of, because we can do that. We can hear that thought and replace it immediately with they are not evil. These might be horrid actions, but they're not evil, most of them. Some of them are
Most
doing it
of
on
them.
purpose, right?
You know
Um,
what? Let me interrupt you for just 1 second, because
please,
one of the
please.
things that Tracy talked about, she heads up the physical therapy department for the VA hospital here in Vegas. And the new employees at the VA have to sign a pledge that they will support the new regime. And
What?
they're having to sign a declaration saying that they are going to support, and the consequences are they could lose their job. So when you are, I mean, just think what the implications of that. I mean, even after all the layoffs and all of the butchering that has happened to our agencies, think of the number of people that are being forced, if they want the job, being forced to sign this document, whether they're that way or not. Um, and what you're talking about is so critically important, because how do we fight against that? How do we, I mean, so you sign the form and then you ignore it. I mean, I don't know if that is the answer, but
Yeah,
those
like
people,
do we comply and then continue? Like I don't know. I mean, I feel I don't have a boss. I don't I'm not having to navigate that, right? I'm not having to I mean, I'm not even in contract with a client who would require me to not speak my truth anymore. And so I don't feel like I have to navigate that. And every time I post, I say a little prayer that those who need to hear it, that those who are ready to open their hearts to hearing something different do, and releasing the outcome of it. And just saying, like, I did my part here. I felt the calling to do the writing, to send the text, to make the phone call, to write the postcard, whatever it is, and send it with blessings and say, like, okay, it's going, it's doing. It's like the marching, right? Like every action, if we intentionally remember that we are doing that from our center and that it's not against anyone, it's for peace, it's for connection, it's for community, that that's what keeps us on that higher vibration than falling down into fear. And you know, maybe for those of us who don't have that, it's being here when and if that does happen to them. Like, how do we support them in paying their bills when they've spoken their truth and they lose their jobs? Like, what did I just read the other day? That New Mexico is the first state in the United States to offer healthcare for uh, all of their residents. I don't know if anybody else read that. Read that. I think I saw it on Cory Booker's page, but it was something like this. Oh no, it was Robert Reich who posted it, and it was such a beautiful reminder. Right, we have abdicated a lot to the White House, to the federal government. We have abdicated a lot, and we don't need to, because we can do a lot of that stuff locally. We can feed the homeless. We can find ways to rally to take old deserted office buildings and turn them into places where people can get back on their feet. Like, there are things that we can do locally. And so maybe that's how we combat it. Maybe if that speaks to you, if you drive by a building every day and you think, what a waste, that empty building sits there. Maybe that's a calling to say, like, what can I do here locally that will make a difference? It's oh, Joanne, look, this is you feisty. No one signs it and they all walk out. That's well, yeah, that sounds delicious. That sound bye-bye. But again, it's we have, there's a certain amount of privilege to be able to do something like that, right? Like you have money and resources and like that's the hard part. It's like how do we create a fund that supports people that that stand up for their beliefs and are losing their jobs in this? Maybe there's something there.
It's the hypocrisy of cancellation. For years we've heard, the left can't cancel anybody out. Cancellation is bad. And all they're doing is canceling out. One of the agents in our office is very vocal, and she's just recently gotten political, and she said something about Charlie Kirk, about the assassination last week, and it wasn't inflammatory, but she got so much discourse on her post and so much um, feedback. And somebody called our broker, and he called her, and she said, and then she posted, she said, you know what? This finally happened. She told the whole story. She said, my broker was called. She goes, so I'm taking one for the team, and I took off the post. So she took her post down. But it's just like there's no freedom of speech anymore to say anything. But they can say all they want. But if anybody counters, you know, so it's just the hypocrisy is
Yes.
so loud.
Well, here's the thing. So I do want to talk about this because I think that we've talked about it in other ways in the circle about the community actually circling around the goodness, right? There, if we're gonna speak in divisive terms right now, just for a second, right? Left versus right. And although I hate that, it's reality right now, right? That we must, when we see that, show our support. We cannot be quiet. Like we have to find a way to show our support to that person so that their feed isn't filled with the negative, right? That there are other truth speakers. And I also I wrote about this earlier this week, not specifically about what happened to the guy in Vegas, but Connie, you probably heard more about this because of where you are. But the Vegas agent with Realty One that posted, and you know what? His post was violent. His post was was unnecessarily filled with negative vibes, and I'm not a fan of that either. Like he got consequences. He was, let go. His license was returned to him. He lost his directorship that was coming up for 2026. And quite frankly, I agreed with that because he was not representing the brand that he was touting. And when we do yoke ourselves to a brand, to a company, we are saying, hey, if this goes against your culture, your core values, the company has the right to release that person. And that doesn't mean if he were to just say, I'm not crying any tears, or I didn't know the guy or whatever. But, when you say that you're glad somebody's dead, that that energy doesn't belong out there either. And so I'm I think we also need to speak out when that stuff happens and to show that it's not an us versus them. It's actually we're seeking that center, that place where consequences are real. They are real. Every word we say, the consequence might be love and joy surrounds you. The consequence might be you lose your job, right? Like, and that's not ever going to go away. There will always be consequences. If you don't drink enough water, there's consequences. If you drink too much water, there's consequences. Like, the consequence is just part of life. And I think that um, there's been a confusion between consequence and cancel in our society. And I think that what we can do is we can carry that and be very mindful and discerning and selective and intentional with our words. We can call something out without having to be violent. We can call something out without celebrating it. And I think that's the fine line that we're called to be an example to be an example of that sacred leadership that can say, right? There, who's heard of the kintsugi, that Japanese art where they take things that are broken and they fill the cracks with gold? Has anybody ever seen that? Like, I feel like there's so many parts of our communities that are broken. And I keep holding this visual of all of the voices like us, all of the creatives, all of the artists, all of the musicians, all of these really soulful beings who are here, who are hurting because of the division. I see us as the gold. And I see us in whether it's just a sliver in our own local community, or whether it's we post something and it goes viral, that we are that gold that's going to bring us all together, and that the cracks don't disappear with kintsugi. That the art of kintsugi is not about hiding the cracks, hiding the hurt, that it actually becomes the most beautiful part of the vessel, because there is, um, and maybe I'm saying like it's an accountability that kintsugi highlights. Like, we can break apart, but when we come together, beauty is in that connection, because we've learned, we've grown, we've listened, hopefully, and we're healing. It doesn't erase the harm. It doesn't erase it. It repairs it. And there's something so beautiful about that visual. As each one of you is talking, I can see it. We are that gold. We are gold threads in this situation. Mm, mm. I love that. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Did anybody else have something that was on their heart that they want to talk about? Something that happened that they're trying to unpack, and they need us to hold some space? Mm. Then what I'd love to do is I do this from time to time. I would love for everyone to share a single word or a phrase that you're going to carry forward from the circle today. An idea, a thought, a feeling. Just type it in the chat, that we can carry with us. I'll include it in the recap. But what is that word or phrase that you're going to carry today that's going to help you? If you want to share it out loud, feel free. Say it out loud. Peace. Thank you, Christine. I love that. Beautiful. As you're,
Community.
oh, please, Liz, please.
Connection and community.
Connection, connection and community. The C's, those beautiful words. Oh, look at that. Be the connection, community. Yeah. Connection. Yes. Sisters, this is it. We are the light, Tammy. Yes. And we are here to refuel, right? We're here to re-energize, for some of us, it's right, remembering that we're not alone, right? For some of us, today is about remembering that truth is not meant to divide us, that it is meant to be that pebble that ripples outward. And that as as this beautiful sisterhood, become more courageous with our connections and are intentional with our words, that we can leave not only this circle, but a footprint everywhere we go that carries that thread of sacred leadership that we all believe the world needs, right? The world needs more love and more sacredness in the leadership, more kindness. Uh, I know that Christine has shared many times about Jacinda's book. And if you haven't read her book, the Prime Minister from New Zealand, about leading with kindness, I highly recommend it. You can get it on the bookshop page, or go to your local bookstore. Even better, go talk to someone today. Go find that book. All right, let's do one more round of collective breathing. Let's return to our breath and our center together. Let's inhale love and exhale courage. Again, inhale love. Exhale courage. Let's remember that mantra one last time. I return to the sacred center. My truth ripples outward with love. Return to the sacred center. My truth ripples outward with love. Mm. My darling, darling sisters, thank you so much for bringing your presence and your truth. Thank you for holding sacred space for one another as we shared and we discussed. The weave becomes stronger every time we sit together here. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the wisdom here, which I want to remind everyone again that we are getting ready to step into a new season in the collective where the heart of what we do outside of our Thursdays, right? The heart of what we do is that exchange circle. And it really is, I keep hearing living experiment when I think about it, that it's a living experiment in bartering our wisdom, our skills, our gifts with one another. I see it as a place where collaborations will be born in such a beautiful way, where we will have unexpected connections that are going to be sparked in those one-on-one conversations, and that what we're doing today can be done any day of the week when we gather one-on-one. And so if you haven't had a chance to learn more about the Exchange Circle, please take a look at that today, this weekend, this week. Of course, schedule time with me, message me anytime. Deborah at redthreadscollective.com is a super fast way to get in touch with me. But fill out this form to participate. And this isn't only for people who are coaches or consultants. This is for those of you, the sages that are out there that have wisdom you want to share, and you're willing to offer a time with another person. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 15 minutes. You don't have to have a fancy calendar to do it. We can give them your email address. But this is a way for us to do what was really at the heart of the collective at the very beginning, which is women connecting, supporting, empowering, and sharing with one another. And this idea of bartering in a new way, right? Doing what our ancestors did around the fire pits, right? We're going to do here virtually, and allow others to receive your brilliance, and then allow yourself to actually receive brilliance back in return, and practice reciprocity in a way that's so loving that not only strengthens our own wisdom stack, but also strengthens the fabric of our collective. So give that a take, give that a peek. Sign up to participate. I'd love, love, love to weave you into that. And there are some women who have already put their names on there, so you can look at that page. And if you want, schedule some time with them. I know there's a few women here who have done that. Again, you do not need to be a coach or consultant. If you are a mentor or you've wanted to be a mentor, put your name on that list, sister. Okay, one last breath together. Thank you so much for bringing your presence and your truth. It is with gratitude and sisterhood that we close our circle, my darlings. I will see you next week for the sisterhood support, which is where everyone brings what's going on in their world. We don't have a strong theme. It's open mic night. So I'll see you next week. Love to you all. Take good care. Bye.